All right, so welcome to recruiting the next generation of Greek leaders. Right, I wanted to frame it that way because we're not just trying to find warm bodies, trying to recruit the next leaders of our chapters. Right, so without further ado, what we're going to cover in this session is going to be recruitment philosophy, marketing our values, meeting people and building connection, selection process, securing new members, member retention, and Stockton rules and procedures, right? Marketing and PR are really a part of recruitment. So I've asked those individuals from your chapters to participate as well, because I think this will be a good conversation for them to understand. So let's talk about a little bit about philosophy, right? So recruitment is about building relationships, right? Fraternities are in the relationship business. We deal in human connection. This thing we call brotherhood or sisterhood, it really is code for meaningful, love-filled, purpose-driven, sincere human connection. Organizations are great at growing their membership, understand that their number one goal should be to build a system of authentic relationships. Organizations that are great at growth start by giving away that feeling of brotherhood or sisterhood generously to potential members, right? Freedom of association. Stockton University will not impede your ability to recruit new members. And there is an asterisk there, right? Because obviously we do have, 2.5 GPA requirement. They have to be a second semester freshman, right? But at the end of the day, it's important to me that you have that freedom of association, that you're a recognized organization, you're allowed to bring new members in. All right. That being said, recruitment is a 365-day process. It should be ingrained in everything that you do as a chapter, not something you do on its own. Right? What do you think I mean by that? So often we think about recruitment, we think about the first couple weeks of the semester, right? That's like our recruitment period. But really, we should not be thinking that way at all. We should be thinking 365 days a year, identifying potential members, meeting new people, driving people towards our organization. And then that period that's a couple weeks, the beginning of each semester, should be our time that we actually are giving out bids, offering membership, right? Doing our informationals and getting people to sign up for our process, whatever it might be, right? So look at recruitment as a full year process, and it's a process. It's not a set of events. It's not a 3-week calendar. It's a process, okay? Social excellence is something that I want to talk to you about because building relationships, meeting new people, being a successful social organization is all about social excellence. Social excellence teaches members to make recruitment experiences comfortable for the prospective member, overflowing with kindness, thoughtful touches, celebratory of the uniqueness of each individual, and respectful of the insecurities and hidden realities of each human in this process. We are all just humans recruiting other humans to an organization that tries to make better humans after all. Don't take the humanity out of this process, right? The goal of fraternity and sorority recruitment events, interactions, processes, informational sessions should always be one thing, and that is meaningful, authentic human connection. Remember, we're in the relationship business. We're most successful when instead of trying to impress others, we try to connect with them, right? So here's the definition of social excellence: a state of perpetual generosity, curiosity, positivity, and openness, a desire to intentionally connect with others, the ability to engage in deep, meaningful conversations. When we call ourselves social organizations, it has nothing to do with parties or social events. It has everything to do with how we teach our members to be socially excellent. Right? To be able to speak in front of people, to be able to walk up to a random stranger, shake their hand, and introduce themselves. That is what being a social organization is about. And I often find that piece is lost, right? It's about acting in a responsible and respectable manner with high expectations of others, being your authentic self, allowing people to be their authentic selves, and living every day with integrity as the best version of yourself. It's being confident and vulnerable, being fun and compassionate, being open, kind, and bold. That is how you recruit, right? It's not about having events and hoping people show up and then picking members from the people who show up, right? It's about meeting new people. It's about creating connection. The deepest level of societal participation and contribution is social excellence, right? Authenticity. So that being said, how are we marketing ourselves as a fraternity and sorority community, as individual chapters, as organizations? How are we marketing ourselves to this new generation, right? Gen Z, right? The years differ whoever you talk to, but are basically those that are born between 1995 and 2010. Basically, we're 99.9% of you fit, as well as our incoming students and the rest of our student body, right? Is the majority of which are in that age range right now between 12 and 27, okay? Most of our students on campus are between 18 and 22, right? So this is who you're recruiting. And you might be saying to yourself, I don't need to learn about this generation because I am a part of this generation. So it's like, I know myself. So, so I get it, but that's not always the case, right? Studying generational differences is really important. Companies do this all the time to figure out how they can market to different people, even if it's their own generation. Just because, you're a part of it doesn't mean that you represent every little aspect of what we're seeing through our research, okay? So understanding the motivators of your peers is of the utmost importance if you are at all involved with marketing the fraternal or sorority experience to them. So let's look at what we know about your generation and try to understand what makes them tick so we can better sell this fraternal experience to them, okay? So the first one is blended, right? Blended. Your relationship to race and gender as a generation are far more fluid and blended than previous generations, including my own. I'm a millennial. Diversity and inclusion are not just buzzwords. They're things that you are brought up with, understand, and believe in. Your creators. Your generation is a group of creators. Nearly half of you expect to be your own boss one day, and around 40% of you plan to invent something that will change the world, right? That's pretty cool. You're pragmatic. Most of you were born around 9/11 and grew up through multiple wars and a major financial crisis during which people around you lost their homes. You seem to desire practical opportunities that will directly apply to your career ambitions. You seek stability and predictability. You're worldly. A large percentage of your generation reports having a close friend in a different country, thanks to the internet. Global lines of demarcation make less and less sense to you. Many have done international service-related travel. You care about larger global issues, so your peers might not be as impressed with your bake sale for a local charity, for instance, but that's who you are, right? So far we've covered blended, creators, pragmatic, and worldly. You need to think about these things in a framework to say, if this is who we are marketing to as a generation, these are our peers, how can we think about where our values and our mission and our purpose as a fraternity or sorority fit into these things and align? How can we sell our experience for what it means to join this brotherhood or sisterhood that aligns with these things, that'll make members of Gen Z, our peers, understand why joining a fraternity or sorority will be a benefit to them? Because more than any other generation, I'm sure all of you will agree, you all care more about your return on investment and the cost benefit analysis of joining a fraternity or sorority or joining anything more than anybody before. The reason why college enrollment is starting to drop outside of our population dropping across the country is actually because people are not necessarily seeing the value in college. It's a cost benefit analysis. Do I pay this money to do this thing? Is it worth for me to do it, right? There was a period of time, particularly in my generation, only 15 years ago, where Yes, we were concerned about the cost of joining a fraternity, but more of us were looking at it as an opportunity and not questioning so much the cost benefit analysis, because we kind of viewed it as a benefit. Your generation is really questioning whether joining a fraternity or sorority truly is a benefit versus everything else that they're paying for in this debt-filled world, right? With college debt and everything. Do I really need to join a fraternity? If you're not making that argument as to why they should join your organization, right, we're only going to be recruiting from the people who already come to college wanting to join. And that population of people is very small. I don't know if you realize this, but out of 10,000 students at Stockton, right now, only about 700 are Greek. We barely ever go over the 10% mark for the percentage of students at Stockton that are Greek, right? Because we're only, for the most part, reaching a population for people who are already considering fraternity and sorority life, right? We put up marketing. We hope they show up. We hope they sign up for sorority recruitment. We hope they show up to our rush events. Maybe a buddy pulled them, so that's why they showed up. But there's such a huge population of Stockton, 90% of people who are not showing up. They don't care about your table. They don't care about the marketing. They don't look at your Instagram. They don't care. How are we reaching those individuals? And as I said before, in the previous slides, it's about making genuine, authentic relationships, meeting new people, right? Marketing the Gen Z, quick judges. Because of the flood of information that you've experienced since birth, you've become widely fast curators. Some have suggested that your generation students have an 8-second filter. This is from a May 2015 Fast Company article. Gen Z have a carefully tuned radar for being sold to and a limited amount of time and energy to spend assessing whether something's worth their time. Getting past these filters and winning Gen Z's attention will mean providing them with an engaging and immediately beneficial experience. If they don't see immediately why joining a fraternity or sorority is beneficial for them with their limited time and their limited money, they ain't going to do it, right? So we need to get past this. We need to figure this out. Seeking personal connection. C. Miller and Grace's book suggests that face-to-face communication is perhaps surprisingly very important to your generation. This is a generation where we've been stuck behind masks for a few years. We talk to each other mostly through computer, but face-to-face communication is actually surprisingly important to your generation. That seems to be backed up by the aforementioned Fast Company article. The majority of the people in our study also said that their ability to communicate clearly in person, specifically with older adults, was the #1 skill that would ensure their future success, right? When I think about that, and I think about communicating clearly, specifically with older adults, I think about the alumni in our chapter. I think with working with our volunteers, with our national organizations, that is an opportunity for this generation to reach that goal, right? I need to be able to look adults in the eye, give them a firm handshake, and ask them how they're doing, right? Marketing to your peers will take thoughtfulness, right? But if you're not looking at these slides and what I'm talking to you about and taking it to heart and taking notes right now and trying to understand this, right, you're not going to be successful. You need to think about these things, right? So what are some other considerations thinking about Gen Z? Your generation also carries around a uniquely heavy baggage, so these things must also be considered. There are at least 6 contributing factors that have shaped emotional scars that your generation arrives to college with, right? Social media, all right, is the #1. Today's college student spends less time with their friends in person than any previous generation. The average first-year student used to spend 16 plus hours on any given week with their friends. Now, 2022, only about 18% of freshmen report that same statistic. Conversely, the time spent on our phones and social media has obviously skyrocketed, as you can assume. Because of this, we see others through the lens of their posed, filtered, cropped, intentionally perfect-looking social media stories. The damage being done related to body image, self-worth, personal fulfillment is undeniable. And guys, this is much of a problem for men as it is to women. Demographic shifts. College students are getting older. They are working more. They are more diverse. They are parents. They are overburdened financially. They are overscheduled. What the fraternity and sorority experience used to look like does not work for many students today, right? I spent a lot of time in the spring talking to leaders, probably some of you, about how you do way too much, which might sound funny coming from the fraternity or sorority advisor, but our members are exhausted, right? Instead of focusing on having a small philanthropy project every week and tabling every week, why don't you focus on one or two big things throughout the year, put your energy into that, and let your members breathe a little, right? People need that space. Mental unwellness. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that the percentage of students reporting mental health issues has skyrocketed. This is exacerbated by the high usage rates of opiates and other drugs to mask these health challenges. Always socializing around alcohol may be attractive to a lot of you, some of you, but it is problematic for an increasing number of men specifically, right? So the future of fraternity has less alcohol in it, guys. I'm telling you that right now. Social discord, weekly mass shootings, people storming the US Capitol, a pandemic, the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter. Trust in traditional institutions are being challenged. How many more things could we list that incite anxiety and lack of security to countless segments of our population, right? These are all things we need to keep in mind as we figure out strategies for recruiting those around us. What do they care about? What is the world that they live in? What are the things they're facing on a daily basis? And how do we fit into that? What can we do to show them value? That paying $400 to $500 a semester to be a part of this organization is worth it, right? Failure to fail. It is unnecessary to rail against helicopter parents or the participation ribbon generation, right? Because that gets thrown around a lot. That's been done and it matters. But the young students who do show up at today's colleges and universities do have less failure and learned lessons from that failure in their backgrounds, right? Our parents did not let us fail. They stepped in when something went wrong and made sure we didn't fail. We were given participation trophies, and that has had an adverse effect on us and our development, right? We don't know how to fail. And if we do fail, it feels like it's the end of the world, right? Because we never had that. This point almost feels cliche, but it's an interesting related anecdote. It comes from an article that actually reports on a survey of high school students' drug and alcohol use. Use of many substances is at its lowest level since the survey's inception, including alcohol, cigarettes, heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine, inhalants, and sedatives. Students are arriving at college not only with the most trophies and participation ribbons, but also with the least experience with the most dangerous substances that they'll very quickly encounter. I say that because for our generation of students who are showing up here not having any experience with that, and then they do it at college when they're on their own in an environment that's not safe to them, is when we're going to have more risk management issues, right? Increasingly, the first time people have ever had a drop of alcohol is their freshman year, right? And you hope it's not at your house because then they don't know how to handle their alcohol. And that's when all of a sudden you have a freshman who you have to bring to the hospital. Your chapter is going to be responsible for because they've never had alcohol before, right? So you need to think about these things. On a separate but equally relevant note, students are arriving at colleges and universities with inflated high school grades and quickly acquiring deflated egos upon their college experience, realizing that they probably are not as prepared for college as they should be, right? These are things your generation is facing. So how do we meet their needs? Okay, that's what we need to think about. How do we meet their needs, understanding this generation? So what are some strategies that work for Gen X? Make it personal. Don't group texts, mass email, Insta tag, or Facebook invite people. They won't be attracted to the large group feeling. They want a personal invitation. They'll want to know that you want to build a friendship with them individually, specifically, and not a mass of surface level friendships, right? Identify the value, that return on investment. This should be what we focus on the most. In their mind, they are doing the cost-benefit analysis about whether it's worth it or not to join. Remember, you're asking for important resources, time that they could be spending on studying or advancing themselves, and money when an education already has a costly price tag, and their top concern is affordability. Don't forget the fun. The value and worth are crucial to highlight and focus on when recruiting, but we can't forget about the fun. They want to have a memorable college experience, but one that doesn't take away from their future. Stand out. There are so many involvement opportunities on Stockton's campus to choose from, and many of them are free. How do you stand out as different from other organizations, especially when you have a cost? What do you offer that they don't? It has to be more than buddies, right? You can sell brotherhood and sisterhood all day, but that's not going to matter to them. You are a premium organization. We are premium organizations, right? So make sure they know what makes membership priceless. In person. Of course, this generation uses digital more than any before it, but they value true in-person human-to-human connection more than anything they see on social media. Remember, they grew up with the fake news, so what you post online better be backed up by real-life experiences. Use authentic video. No, I'm not talking about flashy, expensive Hollywood-style sorority recruitment videos that you made with drones. And yes, I'm calling you out on that. The Gen Z audience is on YouTube more than any generation before them. They are following vloggers, tutorials, real people, not music video-esque recruitment videos. Type sorority recruitment into YouTube and you'll find popular vloggers giving incoming freshmen tips on makeup and fashion, what things to say or not to say. Is that the content that we want to be dominating the web search? We should be making our own real vlog style videos that give potential recruits a realistic and better idea of what recruitment and membership will actually be like. That's one of my most favorite ideas on here. We have to be authentic. Cut through the bullshit. Explain selection. These are information seekers. When we lie to them and don't provide more detail about how selections are made, we lose them as members. Using phrases like trust the process and some people slip through the cracks are not cutting it. They want to know what you are looking for in membership. Tell them what they are looking for. Tell them what you are looking for. Period. Be transparent. Highlight academics. Make sure you are including how your organization is helping with academics. Career success and getting good grades is a top priority. They know how much their education costs are, and they're taking it seriously. If you come across as an organization who mostly parties, many students will not be interested. Focus on individuality or highlight it. Gen Z students are individuals and want to hold their individuality. They aren't interested in organizations that make them have to conform and often see fraternity and sorority as places where that is true. Focus on diversity represented in your chapter and be open to recruiting people who are different than you. Not everyone in your chapter needs to be best friends. Not everyone in your chapter has to have the same interests. I see too many fraternity and sororities fail because they become cookie cutter and then they end up not being able to recruit anyone who's not like them. Correct their assumptions. Most of what students learn about fraternity life is from movies, TV shows, and barstool sports. When a potential member looks at your social media or meets your members, are they reminded of the negative stereotypes they assumed were true? Right? Have an accurate information easily acceptable. These students are going to want to learn whatever they can online. That is a scary thing. Googling fraternity currently does not result in the marketing narrative we all have in mind. What information do they need to know? How can we provide it to them during their web search? We are really bad at providing information about our chapters. It is time we start. I recommend updating your Osprey Hub page, updating your website, updating your Instagram, right? Whatever you use, TikTok. Maybe your national provides you a chapter website. Make your Instagram more about providing information on your chapter. For those that are on here who are not aware yet, I helped the Panhellenic Council build a brand new website this summer, and it helps provide information on the individual chapters as well. If anybody's interested, you can go to Panhellenic, I think StocktonPanhellenic.org, and see the brand new website, right? What are strategies that no longer work, right? And I'm going to challenge a lot of you on here right now, and I hold this to be true, right? Strategies that no longer work. Rush week, right? Recruitment is a process. Recruitment is a 365-day-a-year process. Recruitment is not a set of events. It is not a rush week, right? For those that are curious, I'm a historian. I have a degree in history. If you want to know where the term rush came from, back in the day when college students used to show up to college as freshmen, they did not have enough housing. Students would have to find out where to live. They'd have to look at ads and figure out, the limited dorm space. They probably weren't getting in as freshmen. The dorms were actually for upperclassmen. So where did men and women look to find housing? They looked at fraternity and sorority houses, right? I'll join this fraternity, I'll have somewhere to live. So fraternities would literally rush people like quickly, and they'd rush the fraternity to get the housing before somebody else joined so that they can get a room, right? That doesn't conjure up a positive attributes of values-based organization to me. It really belittles and reduces our organizations down to somewhere that provides housing, right? So that's where rush week comes from. That's why I don't like the term personally. But I also, again, think of recruitment as a process, not a set of events. I fully support everyone doing, a week of recruitment events where you have wing night and things like that, but that should not be the be all end all. That's where you probably spend 90% of your energy, but that's probably where you should spend 10% of your energy, right? Quantity drives quality. The more people you meet, the more relationships you build, right? The more hands you shake, the more names you put on your list. And then you'll be able, from that list, be able to figure out who are the quality people we actually want to offer membership for. You want to give out 20 bids, you should have 200 people on your list, which sounds like a lot, but there's 9,000 students walking around Stockton who are not a member of your chapter, right? So you got to think about that, right? Focusing on events to drive numbers. Who shows up to your rush events, right? Friends of friends, people who are adamant about joining fraternity and sorority. Again, 90% of people are not coming. How do we reach those 90%, who, by the way, are probably some of the best people on campus that would be the greatest fraternity and sorority leaders, but we just never talk to them, right? Tabling. Why does tabling no longer work? Because it goes back to the same thing I've been talking about. When you table, most of the time you are sitting behind the table, you're talking to your friends, you're not actually interacting with people you don't know. It's as simple as that. It makes more sense if you are going to table to stand in front of the table, and everyone that walks by, you shake their hand, you introduce yourself, you ask them how their day is going, ask them what they're interested in. I have some really interesting ways to engage people doing that that'll probably throw them off guard, but really get them at least intrigued, right? I would love to help you become much better tablers, but you need to stop sitting behind tables with crap on your table, hoping people are going to come up to you. Doesn't work that way. And at this point, you should realize that, right? All these things, they don't work anymore because they don't have authentic personal connection, okay? Social media tips. No one cares about your members' birthdays. I'm just putting it out there. We have turned our Instagram accounts, right, into accounts for our members. Social media used to be about building connection, reaching out to new people. For fraternities and sororities, it used to be a way to market ourselves. No one cares that it's John's 21st birthday. Happy birthday to our social chair. Thank you for all the hard work you do. That's great. Do that in your private group me as a chapter. Stop putting that on Instagram, right? we should use our resources to always be sharing our values, our mission, getting people interested in what we're about, right? That's what our social media should be about. They do care about how they would benefit from joining. So that's what you should be highlighting in your social media. Since social media is now the #1 format people will use to learn about you, ensure you're using it to show them what you're about, right? If a random person stumbled upon your social media, what would they think about your chapter? That's the only question you have to ask. Put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? Got some happy birthday posts. I've got some cute bikini pics from the summer. I've got, we did a snowboarding trip. Okay, brotherhood. But like, what benefit do I have joining this organization? I just see, it's cool smiling faces. People seem happy to be part of this, but like, I'm not really getting anything, right? Are you actually engaging non-members or just posting and ghosting, right? So 99% of the people you're engaging on your Instagram are probably your own members or your friends in other fraternities and sororities. And then are you just posting something and ghosting? What do I mean by that? Are you engaging people that are not a part of your organization and starting conversations, commenting on their pages, or are you just posting something on your chapter's page and then not even looking at it, maybe it gets like 20 likes, but you're not using your social media to actually be social. You're just posting pictures and then you move on to the next thing, right? Think about that. How can you engage people? How can you find them on Instagram, reach out to them and be like, hey, this is Joe from Phi Mu Delta, and I noticed that you're really interested in this. Oh, you have guys in the chapter that are also interested in this. Would you be interested in coming on Friday night and having dinner and blah, blah, blah. That's how you engage people. If you're afraid to do that because you think that's weird, you're never going to recruit anyone. You're going to be exactly where you are, right? New tips, how we engage new people. Meeting people. You can't recruit who you don't know. That's what I've been saying, all right? This statement is unbelievably obvious and at the same time, utterly profound. Why? Because most fraternity chapters, sorority chapters are pretty good at recruitment, but the problem is they have too few people on their list from which to recruit. Until you've met someone or they've been referred to you by a trusted source, you have 0% chance to recruit them. You can't recruit who you don't know. The first task of any high-performing recruitment system is to meet as many potential members as possible. Right? This goes to another point. If I were to go up to a random student and say, tell me what you think about XYZ fraternity, and if they only could tell you either nothing or maybe what they've heard, then your organization clearly is not meeting a lot of people on campus, right? Yeah, I know there's 10,000 people here, but we're still physically a small campus. If you have a 50-person chapter, your network should be huge. Chances are it's mostly people within fraternity and sorority life. Guess what? They're already in fraternity and sorority life. You can't recruit them, right? So you got to expand that network. Quantity drives quality. Here's another wildly important statement to understand when it comes to recruitment success. Quantity drives quality reminds us that the more people your chapter knows and has on that list, the more people it has a chance to select from. Who would have thought? You want a high quality chapter? Start with a high quantity of names on your list to give your chapter the best chance. How many hands can you shake? How many people can you be introduced to? How many relationships can you build, right? If you do that, you will have great success. Yeah, sounds like a lot of work, but it is worth it. Great ways to grow a fraternity or sorority names list, what we like to call scouting, right? Recruitment scholarship, all right? I'm pretty sure that when Alpha Sig started last year, they offered scholarships to students, right? Smart thing about doing that, right? Phi Mu Delta does that a lot too. I can't remember if they did that when they came here last year. But what does that do? It introduces the campus a little bit about your organization, right? And it gets people to, hopefully apply and write an essay or whatever it might be so that they earn a $250 scholarship, right? Um, your chapter, probably $100 scholarship, right? Um, by doing that, you gain access to people, right? Write us a one-page thing about whatever, what your hopes and dreams are and how you hope to accomplish them. And we're going to pick 5 people to give $100 to. You get 100 people to fill that out. Those are 100 people that you can start building a relationship with. Thank them. Start a conversation. I read your essay. I really enjoyed it. I'd like to sit down with you and have a cup of coffee and talk to you about what you said. And then you can connect it to the organization, build that relationship, and hopefully they can become someone who can join the chapter, right? Referrals, right? Talking to other leaders on campus, talking to your favorite professor, talking to your boss in whatever office. If they know any students that would be, these are the people we're looking for. This is what we value. This is our mission in our organization. Is there anyone that you can think of that stands out to you that would reflect those things? I want to reach out to those students. Again, the possible person to join my organization, right? 5 for 5 challenge, right? Another example of kind of referrals, but can we have five individuals a week come up with 5 new people to add to the list, right? Have a challenge between teams in your chapter. Door holding campaign. I love this one, right? Everyone in your chapter, maybe you have 10 guys that are not in class during a certain period of time, spread them out throughout campus where people are going in and out of doors, right? I'm thinking the coffee house, I'm thinking down by the food court, I'm thinking up by the event room, right? So as people are going in and out of the building, you literally stand there wearing your letters, you open the door for people, you introduce yourself, you tell them to have a wonderful day. If you can get people to stop, if they're not in a rush, you can actually introduce yourself, build a relationship, you're putting yourself out there. Simple door holding campaign. Partner with select organizations, rock, paper, scissors, literally go up to people and challenge them, rock, paper, scissors. If they win, maybe you give them I don't know, something small, piece of candy, whatever. But again, it's a way to break the ice, introduce yourself, throw people off guard. That's actually fun, There's other, I literally threw a few things on here, but I have a list of like 100 ways you can do this. So I do want to point out the 100 student involvement policy. If you are a fraternity or sorority, your chapter should have a policy that says if you are going to be a member of this chapter, you need to be a member of another Stockton student organization. 100% of our members need to be involved on campus outside of the fraternity or sorority. That is what 100% student involvement policy means. By doing that, you are creating a larger network, because then you have 50 members that are involved in 50 other organizations, and then your network is growing and you have a larger web of influence, right? So strategies for scouting, figure out other ways. I can provide you more lists, but you need to put yourselves out there. Having events where people show up, having a table where you hope people walk by is very passive and is, quite frankly, a lazy way to try to get interest in people. We need to be actively out there doing things. But if you're going to table, right, let's talk about tabling the right way. So this is what I mentioned before. So tabling is not necessarily bad. It's about how you table, right? So how professional are you? Are you dressed well? Are you standing in front of the table? Are you introducing yourself? Or are you hanging out lazily, eating lunch, talking to your friends, right? That makes all the difference in how you're tabling, right? Technology. If you have a bunch of crap on your table that nobody cares about because you're trying to fill space, right? We got to put a flag down. We got to put a plaque from an award that we won 6 years ago. These letters that are all dinged up, or do we have a very simple table with representing our organization, but then we have a laptop, a screen that has a slideshow, whatever. But we utilize technology because we're in a technological age. It does impress people, makes it look like you're taking things more seriously. And quite frankly, if you're using any kind of sign up for people to provide their information, it looks a lot better to fill something out on a laptop than a piece of paper, right? What do I do with my hands, right? Stand in front of the table, shake people's hands, introduce themselves. What are you interested in? What are you involved with on campus, right? What are your hopes and dreams? Tell me one goal you hope to accomplish before you graduate Stockton. Do not ask them, hey, my name's Joe. Where are you from? What's your major? That's really boring. Small talk, right? What's the weather? Nobody cares. Really fun thing to do, because again, I love activities where you're meeting new people and you kind of throw them off a little bit. So literally standing in front of the table, introduce yourself, put your hand out, they shake your hand and say, I'm Joe and I'm just curious, what's something you'd like to accomplish before you graduate, right? That's a conversation starter. They're gonna be like, wow, right? It's a good question, right? Then you start a conversation, you actually introduce yourself, like, hey, I'm social chair of Phi Mu Delta, and just thought we'd come out here today and just meet new people and blah blah blah. That's engaging, that's inviting, that's more authentic, right? So think about those things. Common tabling mistakes. Okay, arriving late or early, or leaving early, using last minute display materials that look like a third grade science project, failing to practice the script of what you're actually going to say when people ask about your organization, cluttering the table with trophies, composites, blankets, t-shirts, paddles, and junk, underestimating the importance of smiling, shaking random hands, and having fun, sitting slouching behind the table waiting for people to come talk to you, failing to build a list of names with contact information for follow-up, crowding the table with too many members. It's not, you're going to have a difficult time encouraging people to talk to you when they feel like they're being crowded by like 10 other members, right? You ask a guy to come talk to you and there's 6 other members sitting at the table and you feel like you're being stared at, they're not going to want to engage, right? No social media engagement, using paper or spreadsheets rather than a computer or chapter builder, right? Which I'd love to talk to you about. It's like a souped up Excel spreadsheet that you can help keep track of potential members on. Giving away materials without getting their name and contact info. Obviously, you want to get as many names as possible, add them to that list. So common tabling mistakes, things you want to avoid. All right. Thinking that the fancy, impressive looking table would do all the work. You're in the people business. Sorority women, NPC sororities, you have some beautiful tables, right? Keep it up. I'm not telling you not to do that, but but you're in the people business. Remember, the table area is just supposed to make it easier for people to interact in authentic ways. Forgetting that even at the info table, most of the conversation should be about them. So you don't want to go and be like, all right, let me tell you about Tri Delta. Ask them questions, engage with them. That's why I said, why don't you ask them, what are your hopes and dreams? What's something you'd like to accomplish before you graduate, right? Members hanging out and talking to each other, but failing to meet prospects, dressing sloppy, overdressing, or inappropriate jokes, language, gossip, right? It should be an inviting environment. Creating a scene and or drawing attention through antics is not success, right? Depending on the school council event, host someone else do all the work for your group, right? Nothing planned the next 48 hours to invite people who are interested to attend. So if you're doing something like that, maybe you do something where you invite people to meet up for coffee, right? Not following up or sending one email or text and assuming they're not interested, right? We need to grow that names list. We need to reach out. We need to meet. We need to build that relationship. So let's talk about your info sessions. You host informationals, you host Meet the Brothers, whatever it might be. How do you make that successful? So you've been tasked with planning an informational or some type of meeting that provides an overview of your organization, the joining process, and the opportunity for interested students to learn more. What do we want to get across in this program? I suggest thinking about these 4 prompts. What does our chapter represent? What do we stand for? What are the top 3 qualities and or characteristics that are important for our members to have? And if we were not on campus, our campus would be missing what? The goal of this meeting is, okay? The goals of this meeting are, okay? This will be helpful in figuring out what you need to focus on at your info session. Planning the perfect informational is just like planning the perfect gathering or any other program. The invitation, the venue, the list, and the activities once the gathering begins all matter. It all matters, right? The artifacts, the board, your letters, and pretty much all the items on display are nice. Yet all of those items don't nearly amount to portraying all that it means to be a member of your chapter. Here are a few things to consider taking it up a notch. The invitation. Know your people and get personal with it. Who are the people you want to attract, join, and inform? How are you advertising the meeting besides flyers or social media? Instead of just calling it an info night, try Brotherhood Beyond College or Life in a Fraternity, right? Extend a personal invite to people who have expressed interest, to people who meet your qualities, characteristics, criteria, the first-year students you met during move-in, right? That's what you need to be doing. The space. Environment set the tone. What kind of vibe are you giving off? What does the venue and physical space allow us to do with the room? What does the setup look like? Are there round tables? Is it lecture style? It should match the vibe, right? Create an appropriate playlist to match that vibe. Have music playing in the background before the information presentation actually starts. Okay. The guests. People need to feel welcome and know that they matter. What is the check-in procedure? How do guests know the space is safe for questions or conversations with members? Are there refreshments or ways that you can break the ice? Have someone greeting guests outside the room, at the door, and the floaters to engage in conversations with them while they wait for the events to begin. The show. How we present our organization is how people are going to receive it. What is the agenda? Does it flow? What do you want your guests to leave the program understanding, knowing, or are curious about? Insert stories when you can. The impact of, I realized what brotherhood meant after attending my first regional conference. When my big brother passed down his jacket to me, I felt is much more powerful than we stand for brotherhood, scholarship, and service, right? So be personal, share those stories. The more conversations you have, the more names you know, and the more people you meet, the better your chapter can be informed to select more of the right members for your organization. Shake their hands, answer their questions, and make them feel like they belong. The selection process. If you're not using a values-based selection process, you need to start now. What are the things that you value in your organization, that you value in your members, and then what standards can you relate back to them that reflect those values? For instance, your chapter values academics and knowledge. Maybe as a standard, your members need to either have a 3.0 GPA or at least a GPA above the university average, right? You got to think about these things. Service. A lot of organizations have service as a value, but how are the potential new members you're looking at actually show that they're service-minded? Maybe they attended service projects already that you've seen them at. Maybe they have collected their service hours for something else and they can show that to you, right? Talk to them about being a registered voter, right? Something as simple as that shows how much they care about the greater world, right? They've identified a personal cause that they support, right? Talk to them about those things, and that shows what they value. So try to match those up as much as possible. Securing new members, right? The pre-close. Basically, if we were to ask you to join, what would you say? Before you give someone a bid, make sure you do the pre-close. What's the pre-close? So whoever's been the one who's been actively talking to the P&M, who's had the best relationship with the P&M, they need to meet with that individual and say, hey, listen, if we were to ask you to join right now, what would you say? That way they can tell you yes, no, maybe, and you can have a conversation with them, right? Validate their concerns, isolate each concern, deal with them separately, and then set a date for the next steps and decision, right? When a prospective member says no or not yet, and they follow it up with, I can't afford it, my parents won't let me, I'm going to wait a semester, or I'll think about it. Did you know that they probably don't really mean any of those things? And that's true. They've done research on this. There's plenty of people in the fraternity and sorority world. This is the work we do. We look at these things, and we've asked college students about why they didn't join a fraternity or sorority and the things they said and did. Most of those concerns or excuses are really just a veiled way of communicating something much simpler, much more important. And here it is. Those excuses communicate one of these two things. You all don't seem to love me yet, or I don't really love you all yet. Now, They'll never admit this. And I know it sounds kind of hokey, but after years of teaching, researching, and watching fraternity recruitment, I am 100% convinced that love, yes, LOVE, is the main ingredient. 99% of the time when someone is hesitating to join your chapter, it isn't for any real logical reason. What it is a lack of human connection, a lack of emotional charge, a lack of love. Fraternities sell one thing. We peddle love. We call it brotherhood. We call it purpose. We call it values. But at the end of the day, these things are just a manifestation of a person feeling loved, a sense of belonging. There is an important recruitment skill called the pre-close. And that's when, after you've gotten to know a prospective really well, and they've gotten to know you and your organization really well, you ask, if we were to ask you to join, what would you say? It's at this point they'll respond with either the yes, the no, or the maybe. No's and maybes get a follow-up question. What's one thing holding you back? But understand that when the pre-close process is really about is an opportunity for each party to have a real emotional check-in, to find out if the prospective member feels at home yet, if they feel like they're part of your group, if they feel like they can matter within your organization, if they feel loved. When you find out their concerns or excuses for not yet wanting to join, you'll also find that you probably won't be able to convince them to join with logic, information, data, or bullet points. Because again, it's about that sense of belonging. They'll need more connection, more friendship, more emotional exchange. Factual info will be helpful too, but the real convincing is an act of the heart, not of the brain. Top 10 reasons why people turn down bids, right? For sake of time, I won't go through all of these individually, but they're probably things that you have heard time and time and time again, right? I can provide you some responses that you can have, right? Somebody says, I can't afford it. You might also ask, do you know how much it actually costs? Can I connect you with some other members who also had financial concerns before joining, right? Find ways to continue the conversation, right? They might say, my mom or dad doesn't want me to join. You might ask, would it be okay if I talked with them, right? Yes, I'm telling you to talk to a PNM's parent, right? Scary thought, but this is what you need to prepare yourself for, right? What information can I give you to help them better understand our organization, right? I can give you responses for all of these that are helpful for you to work on, okay? How to give a bid, right? Make it personal. This moment is intimate. You're asking this person to join you in a lifelong vow of loyalty. You're asking this person to make a very big decision. There aren't many moments that will impact a person's life, especially their college years, more than this one. The more personal, the better. One-on-one or small group of members offering a thoughtful, personalized, caring invitation is best. Look one another in the eye. Offer a handshake or a hug to physically commemorate the moment. Honor the emotion and gravity of this decision. Make it a memory that will last a lifetime. Be respectful. Save the partying and celebration for later. This is an opportunity to demonstrate the parts of fraternity that go beyond our ability to have a good time. Don't make a scene. Don't put pressure on them. Don't corner them into saying yes. In fact, you absolutely shouldn't give a bid until you've pre-closed, like I just explained. Make sure they've had a chance to air their concerns and talk through their decision. Right? Number 3, set expectations. The tone and tenor of this moment will set really important and long-lasting expectations of membership for the recipient. Take the opportunity to clearly go through all the things you expect from this new member and all the things they should expect from you. Talk about consequences of not following through on your commitments, right? Like what happens if they don't pay dues, don't come to meetings, choose risky behaviors, don't keep promises. If you set clear expectations here, you'll always be able to hold one another accountable by saying, do you remember the conversation we had when we asked you to join? The direct ask. Do not beat around the bush. Don't be coy. Don't be shy. We would like to formally invite you to join our organization. This is a bid. We're excited to give this to you. Will you join us? Just be clear. Right? Clear commitment. Have them sign a membership contract. Have them sign an official bid. Give them a copy of their signed bid. Have them shake the hands of all the members present. Have them verbally repeat that what they've committed to. If they aren't ready to make clear how long they have to make a decision and when you'll be meeting with them, they get a clear yes or no answer. Do any and all of these items. Just make sure everyone has clarity on the new member's decision right then and there. Never say, let us know when you're ready. Your organization is too important for that. Right. Let's quickly talk about retaining the members that you've already recruited. Right? Why members quit? Misaligned expectations. Many former members of fraternities and sororities feel like they were sold one experience through the marketing and recruitment of the organization, but what they actually experienced was very different. The recruitment experience often looks like fun, buddy club, instant best friends, and perfectly organized joy. And then the chapter experience feels like mandatory attendance, fines, and house duties, right? Be honest. Lack of connection. Large organizations are almost all made up of smaller friend groups. Friend groups are not a bad thing. They are natural and normal building blocks of larger organizations. When a friend group becomes toxic, they are known as cliques, but most friend groups are completely healthy. However, there is at least one person in your organization who doesn't have a friend group. Think about that person or those people right now. That is who is most likely to quit sometime soon. People quit fraternity and sorority, and in fact, people quit college because too often they don't have a best friend or friend group. Now think of your senior members. You might realize that most of their friend group has graduated or disengaged from the chapter. This means that they're likely to disengage sometime soon themselves. By the way, the best method to build meaningful friend group connections is not events. Fraternities and sororities have a bad habit of trying to solve everything with events. This is not a problem that can be solved that way. Relationships take time, effort, and intentionality to be built. Brotherhood and sisterhood are not created overnight. Discord. The third reason why people report that they have left their fraternity is drama. One person said this and the other person said that. One group wants more socials, the other wants more service. One member thought they'd win a position, another one actually did. One group of members feels threatened by another group. One member broke a rule, and while some have their back, others are holding them accountable. Fraternity drama comes in many forms. It's almost impossible to avoid. But a chapter that has well-aligned expectations of membership and healthy connections rarely feels any pain from the natural and normal drama that is inevitably going to happen. External factors. External factors such as the return of investment of membership, perceived value of the experience, and competing interests make up the last reason why members leave your organization. These factors are most seen in your generation, where the higher value is placed on purposeful financial investments and developmental experiences. Fraternity is seen as a premium experience. It is often one of the more expensive extracurricular options on campus, where members need to be sure that the financial investment is returning skills and relationships that last beyond the undergraduate experience. We've all heard of that member who wants to leave because of finances. What that often really means is this is not worth it to me. When the financial investment stops being worth it to our members, they are more likely to leave their membership. This is especially important during the new member period when members are in that try before you buy mentality. We're not the only student organization on campus. When there are handfuls of others that also offer leadership, scholarship, service, and fellowship at a lower price tag, members leave to competing organizations when the time and financial investment appear to have a higher return on investment. They can party anywhere. So I'm going to go back to some nuts and bolts stuff right now to finish up. These are our last two slides. And this is kind of about our stocks and rules and procedures involving recruitment. Some things I want to make some clarity on. So as I said earlier, recruiting is different than offering a membership or a bid. You can recruit anyone at any time. Recruitment is a 365-day process. Whether they can accept a bid is dependent of their GPA and status at the university. So when I talk about recruitment, I talk about recruiting people. I'm not talking about recruitment events or a recruitment period or anything like that. I'm talking about recruitment, right? Not offering a membership or a bid. That's offering membership or a bid. Do not induct new members or submit names to your headquarters or begin the education process or collect fees from P&Ms until the university has approved the student to join, right? Let me make that clear. Do not do any of those things until I have told you they're good to go. We make this easy by sharing a Google spreadsheet where you can add names and we can update you on their status. Green means go, red means no, yellow means not quite yet. For those that have been around and worked with me on this, I've been doing this every semester and it's really helpful. When your chapter is prepared to begin the new member process, your chapter must submit an official request and be approved by the university before commencing. You will need to provide a calendar of new member activities that includes dates, locations, and subject matter, as well as the final list of new members you'll be inviting to your chapter. I'll also ask you to meet with me. Just so you know what that Google spreadsheet looks like, I have an example right here. So here's the spreadsheet that I've already created for Alpha Chi Rho for the fall, right? And it's a blank spreadsheet. I just put a fake name on here as an example, but I'll give access to your chapter to this spreadsheet so that you can go on, you can make this your names list. Folks that you're interested in offering a bid to, you put their information on here. I need their name, their Z number, their Stockton email. I will look up their GPA and I will make sure that they complete the eligibility process. Once I highlight that line in green, that means that you can offer them a bid and they're good to go. If I make it red, that means there's some reason why they can't join, right? It might be GPA, it might be other reasons. And if they're yellow, it means I've looked at them, but they're not quite done probably with the eligibility process, right? So that's kind of what all that means. So let me know. I'll provide you access. I should have everybody's recruitment chair for the semester. I should have that information. And I'll send this and give access to all the individuals in your chapter that need it. And we'll go from there. Do I have any questions about everything I just presented?
Do you know if Sorority Life will be doing informal recruitment in the fall, or there's like a certain chapter minimum we have to hit or anything along those lines, similar to last year?
Yes, Panhellenic, yes, I will. I do have the answer to that. What chapter are you from?
Delta Phi Epsilon.
What did I do with my stuff? I believe, how many people are returning to your chapter this fall?
I believe it's 66, but I have to double check that number.
Yeah, it's 66.
You currently have the largest Panhellenic chapter on campus, so you will not be recruiting this fall. If you have questions about that, we can talk about that offline.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
That's all I wanted to know.
Yep. Are there any other questions, general or otherwise? Okay. What I'll do for you right now is let me pull up the assessment. I'll share it in the chat. And then I'm going to jump immediately into our next session. I'm sure people have already joined us. That is the assessment for recruitment. And we'll go from there. All right, so